Sound good up?
Nice.
Sound there? I mean, too much guitar, or is it, even though I talk and play, you're pretty good? Okay, cool. That's what I want to know. Well, we're really packing them in tonight, boys and girls. You would think that, if not me packing them in, hearing a story from Howard Walker would be good. Howard, this is no reflection on you, but apparently
we suck.
We suck. Or, anyway. I mean, do you want me to do a song or two and then you can tell the story, or it's just kind of like swap back and forth?
I've only got one. So
you only got one story. Teresa, I forget, you play guitar?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I know.
Oh, that's okay, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I thought you remember, I know you play violin. Correct?
Yeah, I play guitar. Guitar's my better name.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I stayed there in Liberty.
What does Nick play? Anything besides the 12 hours? He's more of a keyboard person. Well, I'm going to start off with something that I used to play at mini-cons up in the music suites, the music rooms, a lot back in like the late 70s and early 80s. And it's a love song in a way. Oops. I'm walking down the alley, trying to discover a way to silence the dogs. While I watch you dressing by the window, peekaboo Tommy, that's the number everybody knows me by. And they watch me watching you dressing by the window. Lord, but you put on a show every night. A massive sign goes up when you finally turn out the lights. This neighborhood's fun, everybody knows it, but no one wants to change. So we'll watch you dressing by the window. Lord, but you put on a show every night. A massive sign goes up when you finally turn out the light. I'm walking down the alley, trying to discover a way to silence the dogs. While I watch you dressing by the window. Funny little quirk, a voyeur's line of work, and you know I'll do it again. 'Cause I like to watch you dressing by the window. Dressing by the window. Dressing by the window. Like I said, it's a love song. Everybody should have a happy song about voyeurism in their set, you know?
You know what? White supremacists, but we're not because we're all good.
So, this song, yeah, perverse. I figured with this crowd that might work, you know, but no one. And one guy I've always liked over the years is John P. And When I first heard this song, I didn't hear him do it first. I heard John Denver do it on an album back in like 1972 or 73, when he would just hit it big with Take Me Home Country Roads. But this song was on that album. You probably know it by the name of Blow Up Your TV, but the real title is called Spanish Pipe Dream. No, yes it is. She was a level-headed dancer on the road to alcohol. I was just a soldier on her chest against me. About the time the jukebox broke, gave me a peck on the back of my neck. These are the words she spoke. Blow up your TV, throw away your papers, move to the country, build you a home, plant a little garden, eat a lot of peaches. You gotta find Jesus on your own. Well, I sat there at the table and I acted real naive, 'cause I knew that topless lady, she had something up her sleeve. She danced around the room a while and she did the hoochie coo, singing a song all night long, telling me what to do. Blow up your TV, throw away your papers, move to the country, build you a home, plant a little garden, eat a lot of peaches. You gotta find Jesus on your own. Well, I was just a young one and about to leave that place. Just as I was going, she looked me in the face. I said, you must know the answer. And she said, no, but I'll give it a try. And to this day, we're living our way. And here is the reason why. We blew up the TV, threw away the papers, moved to the country, built us a home, had a lot of children, raised them on peaches. Ooh, they all found Jesus on their
Love song.
Yeah.
Very romantic.
World needs more love.
You're like an insufferable romantic, aren't you?
Yeah, blow up your TV, dating a topless dancer.
I know. People ask me why I married 25 women, and I said, I'm just a hopeless romantic.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's only 5, folks. Only 5 women.
5, 4, 6, 20. I've lost track. I'm only claiming one. The one that's
Well, also from back in the 60s, Peter, Paul and Mary song.
Yep.
I dig rock and roll music.
I remember that.
I dig rock and roll music whenever I get the chance to play. I think it's just the groovy sound going down today. The music may not move me, or mean a great deal to me, but hey, it feels so groovy to say. I dig the mamas and the papas and the trips and some strip in LA. They got a good thing going when the words don't get in the way. And when they're really wailing, Michelle and Cass are sailing. They really nail me to the wall. exactly what they say. I dig rock and roll and music. I can really get it on in that scene. I think I could say something if you know what I mean. And if I really play it, the radio won't play it unless I lay it between the lines. Rock and roll music. Da, da, da. Should take you back, boys. What else we got? I think I'll pass on those two. Not too terribly good. Oh yes, my brother once wrote some. Well, he and I never really cared for country music, and he wrote a bunch of words, and I set it to like a country melody. And so here's Cowboy Blues. Let's see, 1977. My horse just died, and I'm so sad. He was the best damn horse I ever had. He just up and died without giving me no warning. Now the only thing that'll get me through tonight is tomorrow morning. My girl ran off with my best friend. I fear at last this is the end. My brother drowned in Brownie Lake. I don't know how much more I can take. The liquor store won't sell me no thrills until I settle up my bills. All around the door, debt collectors are swarming. Now the only thing that'll get me through tonight is tomorrow morning. I got these sad cowboy blues from my head down to my shoes. The girls all neglect me, the both, oh crap. My friends don't respect me. My friends all neglect me, but the girls don't respect me. I can cheat a little bit. I always get flubbed up on those two lines. It's been a long time since I've played. Okay. I got these sad cowboy blues from my head down to my shoes. My friends all neglect me. The girls don't respect me. I have to confess, my life is a mess. The things I hold dear than people are a scorning. Now the only thing that'll get me through tonight is tomorrow morning. Well, my saddle sores are killing me. I got jock itch clear down to my knee. My boss, he's gonna fire me. Says you don't know why he even bother to hire me. Now I'm stuck in the cold and the weather is a storm. And now the only thing that'll get me through tonight is tomorrow morning. I got these sad cowboy blues from my head down to my shoes. The girls my friends all neglect me. The girls don't respect me. I have to confess, my life is a mess. since Bush was president. The first one. Yeah, it's safe to say that I'm a little bit forlorn. Now the only thing that'll get me through tonight, I think you know what ends. Is tomorrow morning. Been too long for tonight. Way too long. Oh well. Let's see. You dare me to do one more?
I dare you.
You dare me?
Double
Double dog dare you.
Okay, here's one I think we can all, jeez, I should have too hot in that hat. Anyway, I don't know how Rich Code wears those hats like that all the time. He probably sleeps in it. I've never seen him without a hat on. Did anybody?
He sacrifices for fashion.
Ah, okay. But here's one I wrote in 1979. I think we've all felt this way about having a job. I just wanted to like say, heck with it. So I wrote a song about it. Want to hear it? Here it go. Anyway, been working this old diner half a million years. Feel like I'm gonna die. Cooked a lot of breakfasts, washed and scrubbed the floor. Think I'll tell you why. Screw it all, screw it all. When your back's against the wall, when you hang up your shoes, scream out loud, screw it all. Cleaning up the messes drunks spill every night, get barely sympathy from the hopeless patrons who only shake their heads and never leave a tip. Screw it all, screw it all. When your back's against the wall, when you hang up your shoes, scream out loud, screw it all. I've had it with the hours, I hate this scummy place. It's never been a bed of roses. I'll close this shack forever and never return. But it's been my home for ages. Long as I remember, this corner's been my home. Here on 13th and Perone. I've seen a million faces, give or take a few. All the folks I've never known. Screw it all, screw it all. When your back's against the wall, when you hang up your shoes, scream out loud, screw it all. Suck it all, people, can't you see that my back's against the wall? I'm gonna hang up my shoes. This time I mean it. Screw it all. Another love song. Yeah.
Another love song.
What time do we got here?
Screw it all.
It's a screw song, not a lip song.
That's the screw song.
Kill them all, let God sort it out. Something like that.
Well, let's see. Howard, would you like to do a story?
I could now.
Okay.
All right, okay.
Are you gonna do a nasty one?
No, you'll like it.
I will?
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently, this is a famous song story that you heard firsthand from from people.
First hand from Ben Bova, second hand from Isaac Asimov.
Second hand from Isaac Asimov.
That's right. A man I never met in my whole life.
You never met Isaac Asimov?
I never met Isaac Asimov in my whole life. But Joe remembers. You remember a Radicon in Houston that Cliff put on?
I'm sure I would if
Right.
somebody
Anyway,
found it.
Ben Bova and
Oh,
his
yeah,
wife,
yeah, yeah, I
right.
talked to
Ben
him.
Bova and his wife were there,
Yeah, I
right?
talked to
And
him.
evidently
I asked him why he rejected my story.
it was on sorry, it was on the only day. I heard horror stories for years. It was only weekend in the history of the world that Ben Bova's then wife was a nice human being.
Oh.
And so therefore, Ben was a nice human being, and Ben told me the story that Isaac told him that is in Asimov's Treasury of Jewish Humor, Volume 1 or 2 or one of those, right? You know, as I'm sure as only Isaac can tell it. But I heard it directly from Ben Bova, and I do the version from Ben Bova, which is directly from Asimov. You bear with me because it's sort of complicated
Speak
stuff.
into the mic, 'cause
What?
I can't hear you very well.
She wants you to do sound effects with your mouth.
No, just speak into the mic. Yeah.
Can y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay, all right. It's good enough because as far as away as I'll be. All right, it starts out. In 1371, the Pope decreed that in 6 months, all Jews had to leave Rome. Since Rome was the holiest city of Christianity, it wasn't good for there to be Jews within its city limits. The rabbis of the 4 synagogues in Rome came to the College of Cardinals and says, we've been here as long as you have. We were Italians while you were still Romans, and then you became Italians too. This is our home, you know. Why is he trying to make us leave? And so there was a consultation and stuff, and they said, all right, send your best man, your most learned man, to come to Rome to debate with the Pope. And they said, all right. And they marched back to the synagogues, and they started sending out letters all over the place to learned rabbis and wise men and stuff, and say, you know, tell them the problem and say, come to Rome and be our champion, and, you know, make it so that they don't make us leave and stuff. And there's a little guy at the synagogue now named Jacopo Grimaldi, who's a Christian that they hired to do things like sweep up the synagogues and to light the fires on the Sabbath and stuff. The stuff they made golems for later, right? You know, but they used Christians at the time. They paid Christians to do it. And so Jacopo says, send me. Says, I'm Italian, he's Italian. I can win an argument with any Italian. Send me, I'll take him on. And they said, very good, Jacopo. We'll keep you in mind if one of the men we're sending for doesn't show up. And like, so the months went by. The debate was going to be in 6 months. The months went by, and one by one, the learned men all over the place says, you're crazy if you think I'm coming to Rome, the holy city of Christianity, and debate with the Pope, you know, and stuff. And one by one, they dropped out and stuff. So when it came to the end of the 6 months, there was no one had come forward to champion them. Jacopo says, send me. He says, I'm Italian, he's Italian. I can win an argument with any Italian. And he said, you know, and the rabbi said, well, what do we have to lose, right? You know, we're going to lose anyway. So, you know, so they put on their best robes and stuff, and Jacopo's in his usual work clothes and stuff. And like, they march to the Vatican, right? You know, with Jacopo in the middle. And they get in the middle, and they go in, and here are the serried ranks of the College of Cardinals. And in the middle is the Pope in all his vestments and finery and stuff, sitting on the throne. And they walk up and they stop and they part on each side and leave Jacopo in the middle. And the Pope goes, and Jacopo goes, and the Pope looks at him a minute, and then the Pope goes, and Jacopo goes, and the Pope sort of sits back in his chair, and he sits there for a minute, and he reaches into his finery, and he pulls out an orange, and Jacopo reaches in the sleeve of his caftan and pulls out a matzo ball, and the Pope falls off his throne. And he says, they can stay. He wins, right? And so the rabbis form ranks around Jacopo and they march out from the Vatican. And like the College of Cardinals rush to the Pope and they say, Your Holiness, what happened? What happened? He says, I was going to argue theology with him. He said, I stood and I said, there is but one God, the God of all the heavens and the earth, everywhere around, all the Empyrean and all the angels, the planets and the stars. And he said, you're forgetting that he is with us in this very room right now. And he says, well, this guy knows Christian theology. So I said, there is but one church, the Holy Roman Church, whose wisdom extends everywhere. And he said, you're forgetting his reincarnation as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I said, he knows his Christian theology besides his Jewish theology. He says, so I was going to change the debate. I was going to change the debate to geography. And I took out an orange to show that I knew that the world was round. And I was going to argue with him about that. And he says, and he took out a matzo ball to show that he knew the world was round too. How can I win an argument with a guy like this? I said, so I decided they could stay. He says, meanwhile, the four rabbis are walking with Jacopo back to the synagogue, and they don't say a word and stuff, and they walk in, they close the doors, and they say, Jacopo, what is it? He says, I'm Italian, he's Italian. I can win an argument with any Italian. He says, we walk in, he says, get out of Rome. I said, we're staying right here. He says, fuck you. I said, fuck you 3 times. Argument's over. He takes out his lunch, I take out mine.
Thank you.
Directly from Isaac Asimov.
I want this on the noon auto gyro to the Prussian embassy in Siam.
I have one last song.
Did anyone film that?
Yeah,
it's on here.
Huh?
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah.
Robbie got that. That went out live streaming around the world,
Yeah.
To an audience of 3.
including Rome.
So the whole world saw that?
Well, the whole world,
Including
audience
Rome.
of 3 people so
Will
far.
they be saved and shown on your website?
Well, yeah, it'll be, the YouTube link will be available, yes.
Oh, okay.
So I can get a YouTube of that?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Well, I eventually get listed in Inca, but I can make it available anytime.
Do I Google up Ben Boba's story?
No, you look for my web, it's on my live stream.
Your live stream.
Yeah, on YouTube.
All right, I have one last song.
Nobody.
Oh. Now I get the applause.
We can handle
I
one
should
song.
have let off with this one.
Yeah. One more.
Yeah, one more.
Get by with one song.
This is a sing-along, and you can sing along on the refrain. It's fairly easy to pick up, especially if you've ever owned an auto harp.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
You remember how the buttons were color-coded?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was in the folk trio back in about 1975 to 76 at the height of the disco craze.
Okay.
And
Great timing.
great career non-move. But, and our lead singer, Michael Johnson, now this is up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where you can't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody named Johnson. And he had a wonderful, wonderful voice, but he didn't play an instrument. Bill Fisher, who is his old friend, and they had the group they called Johnson and Fish. When I joined, I became Johnson Fish and Company. I became Company. And so we used to do, like, Bill and I would write the songs for Mike to sing, and sometimes Mike would write words, and we put it to music. And at one point, Bill comes to me and says, you know, Mike does own an auto harp. We kind of work that into the act. And so Bill came up with about three and a half verses of this, and I helped out a little bit. And we call this progression in green major. So Michael come out there first. He's sitting with the spots on him and stuff. His auto harp, and the instructions are in front of him. And he goes, how to play the auto harp. First, you push the green button, and it goes like, it's called the, let's try that again. That sounds good. That's called the G chord. Okay, G for green. Okay, that makes sense. All right. And then you push the blue button, which sounds like that, called the C chord. So blue for blue, the C, water. Okay, that works. So green and blue for the C. All right. And then you push the yellow button. Oh, no. It was green, blue, yellow is the C chord, and then the D chord, red. So, okay, so it's green, blue, yellow, red, and green. Cool. Walked into a coffee house, on a in hand. The man said, "What you want, big boy? I wanna play in the band." Now I don't read no music score, don't know a treble, clef, or bass. But here's one simple procedure I use to mark my place. I just play green, blue, yellow, red, green, blue, yellow, red. The man leaned back against the bar, rubbing his chin and thought. Then he looked me in the eye and said, "Well, kid, I'll tell you what. Kid, you might have something there for everyone to hear, but I just don't know how you'll fare." I said, "I'll make it clear. I just play green, blue, yellow, red, and green, blue, yellow, red, and the talent Scott walked in the door, said, "Baby, what's that sound? It's a natural hook, it's commercial book, it's the grooviest thing in town." He said, "How many years you studied?" "You gotta have an MFA. It was studied at Juilliard to make it sound that way, but I just play green, blue, yellow, red, and green, blue, yellow, red, and I just had a bop, shabop, and a do, I did it too. And then you go, ooh, wow, wow, and go from green to blue. So he says to me, "What's your name, kid?" "It don't matter anyway. Just sign here on this dotted line and show us how you play." Now I just play green, blue, yellow, red, and sing along. Blue, yellow, red, and red, and blue. You put money in a jar, but they're going to make me stop.
Never heard that. All right.
Love it.
What time do we start in the morning?
Concert opens at 8 in the morning
Uh-huh.
For breakfast stuff, but the first panel will be in here at 11 o'clock. That will be the history of Texas fandom. And
That's us.
good news,
That's us.
Al Jackson, like I said during opening ceremonies, can't be here, but he sent me a PowerPoint of pictures and text, so we can kind of like roll through that. Then you people who are here from that era, you can just fill in some blanks and add to it.
Okay, I'm filling in for Al Jackson, so I
Yes.
probably should look at it.
But I've got it saved to my stick drive, and we'll just put the PowerPoint right up on the screen, and you guys can just flesh in the things.
All right, so it's got pictures of people or what?
Yes.
Oh,
Young
so
people.
all we have to do is identify the people.
They even identified
Everything
them.
about it, but if it's about the Futurians, I don't know shit.
Oh, I know something. Familia's got a picture of the Houston Science Fiction Society, 1971, right there.
Mhm.
That's got Lisa Tuttle.
Lisa Tuttle.
And is that you?
No, I was taking a picture of
You're
it.
taking the picture?
It might be Dennis on top, my
All
brother.
right, well, that's Dennis then. Right. It's got a lot of people. Cliff Davis is there. Right. Have you seen that picture?
I have not. John's holding a copy of this thing called Weird Tales #2, which comes from like 1975,
1975.
and there's contributions from people like Stephen Utley in it.
Yeah, this guy's killed himself, this guy's still alive. She went to Washington DC and became a hippie or something. He's dead. She moved to England and got married, became a famous writer. Anyway, Apollinaire was just weird as fuck, and I think still is. Or is he dead?
I don't know.
He was weird as fuck. Is that a technical expression?
Yeah.
I think it's in the ICD-9.
Yeah, he really was weird.
I'm sorry.
He was so weird that, oh, I remember how weird he was. He was so weird, we had a party one time, and he sat on the couch, and the person that owned the house had the couch taken out and fumigated.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay, that's a true story. Anyway, all these people are here.
It's open stage mic night.
We can
Open mic
identify
night.
them.
Have you ever known anybody like that?
Not quite that bad.
I'm turning this off. We can't let John Moffat around.
Okay,